The numbers are getting impossible to ignore. On a Saturday night, while most sports fans had plenty of options to choose from, more than two, 5 million people tuned in to watch a regular season WNBA game, not the finals, not a championship matchup, not a winner-take-all showdown. A regular season game between the Indiana Fever and the New York Liberty. And once the final ratings came in, the reaction across the basketball world was immediate. Because this wasn't just another strong television performance. This was another reminder that Caitlin Clark continues to drive attention at a level the league has rarely seen before. But while fans were celebrating the massive audience, something else happened that completely changed the conversation. A comment from Fever head coach Stephanie White sparked a debate that is still dividing basketball fans today. And the question everyone suddenly started asking was simple. If Caitlin Clark is bringing in historic audiences, why do so many fans believe the Indiana Fever still aren't fully building around her strengths? That's where this story gets interesting. The Fever versus Liberty matchup averaged roughly 2.56 million viewers and peaked at more than 3 million during the game's biggest moments. Those are numbers that many sports leagues would gladly take for their marquee events. And for Caitlin Clark supporters, the ratings felt like another piece of evidence in an argument they've been making for months. Every time Clark steps onto the floor, attention follows. Every time she faces a major opponent, the audience grows. Every time she enters a nationally televised game, the conversation expands beyond basketball. At this point, it's no longer just about points, assists, or wins. It's about impact. And that's exactly why Stephanie White's postgame comments attracted so much attention. During her media session, White emphasized that her focus was on building a winning team rather than trying to satisfy outside expectations. From a coaching perspective, that's a completely reasonable answer. After all, coaches aren't hired to chase television ratings, they're hired to win basketball games. But many fans heard something very different. Instead of hearing a coach focused on long-term success, they heard someone unwilling to adjust around one of the most unique players in the sport. And almost immediately, social media exploded. Some fans defended White, others argued that the Fever were holding Clark back. Suddenly, what should have been a celebration of another historic ratings performance became a debate about coaching philosophy. Because this isn't the first time fans have questioned whether Clark's style fits perfectly within Indiana's current system. Anyone who watched her dominate at Iowa remembers what made her special. The pace, the creativity. The deep three-pointers that seemed to come from another zip code, the quick decisions, the fast break opportunities. The feeling that every possession could turn into a highlight. Clark's game has always been built on pressure. She forces defenses into uncomfortable situations. She speeds opponents up. She creates chaos. And sometimes it feels like that's exactly where she's at her best. Meanwhile, critics of Indiana's offense argue that the Fever often play at a slower pace than what naturally suits Clark's strengths. Now, to be fair, basketball is never that simple. A coach isn't responsible for maximizing one player. A coach is responsible for maximizing an entire roster. And that's where Stephanie White's supporters push back. They argue that winning basketball requires balance. Defense matters, chemistry matters, structure matters. And sometimes the style that creates the most exciting highlights isn't necessarily the style that produces championships. It's a fair point. In fact, it's probably the strongest argument on the other side of this debate. Because history is full of coaches who ignored outside criticism and eventually proved everyone wrong. But here's why the discussion keeps coming back. The ratings, the attention, the sheer amount of interest surrounding Caitlin Clark. Every time a new audience record appears, fans start asking the same question again. What happens if everything clicks? What happens if Clark reaches her absolute peak? What happens if the roster, the system, and the superstar all move in the same direction? Because even people who support Stephanie White's approach acknowledge one thing. There may still be another level this team can reach, and that's what makes the situation so fascinating. We're no longer talking about a rookie. We're no longer talking about a player trying to find her place in the league. This is Caitlin Clark's team. Whether people like that statement or not, that's the reality of the attention surrounding the Indiana Fever. She has become one of